Greetings, Tubineros. Another ML King holiday is on us, and we're going to be inundated with memoriams to this sacred American icon as if he was one of the founding fathers of the American way of life. Nothing could have been further from the truth, as I'm about to show. For King, ending segregation and even integration were never ends in themselves, but the beginning point of a social revolution transforming the very fundamentals of American society, and given America's place in the world, thereby transforming the world as well. Did that mean King was really a communist, as J. Edgar Hoover and other haters always maintained? King was a sincere Christian and believer in Gandhian nonviolence, so the question is a non sequitur. However, he was a revolutionary dedicated to social justice, and in American terms of his day and ours, that was good enough to put him between the crosshairs. 1 year before his death at Riverside Church in New York, he warned the American establishment of being dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridors of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. He called for a true revolution of values, to begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When property rights and profits are considered more important than people, injustice could never be overcome. In his last year, he devised the idea of a poor people's campaign, transcending race and color. It proposed to abolish poverty directly through state redistribution that would allow the poor to pay for their own housing, education, and other necessities. This revitalization would be possible only through demilitarization, by reducing so-called defense spending to its necessary minimum, by putting human needs over the claims of empire. To begin this process of distributive justice, as he called it, King proposed a Poor People's March in Washington that would have, in effect, occupied Washington, protests that would shut down the Pentagon, block transportation, and keep the government from functioning normally. Exactly what Boehner and the current Republican Congress are doing, except for the 99% instead of the 1% masterclass. Interesting that John Boehner can enact such subversion without any fear of retribution. To wealth all is allowed, even treason. King even foreshadowed the essence of the Occupy movement by saying at Jesse Jackson's church in Chicago in February 1968, that we've got to find something that avoids riots on the one hand, but also timid supplication for justice on the other. We must face the fact that pressureless persuasion does not move the power structure of our nation because privileged groups do not give up their privileges voluntarily, but always with resistance. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. In his last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, King called on the poor to form their own enterprises, to engage in protests and boycotts, to fight for jobs, organize unions, and voter registration drives. And he repeated that the wealthy were damned like divas, a generic term meaning rich man in the Latin Vulgate New Testament, not so much for their wealth, but because he passed Lazarus every day but didn't give a damn. That means when we say, give the rich hell, we're only doing like Jesus. So when we deify King as a Christ-like figure, let's remember that this deification is necessary to co-opt, gut, and neutralize the true meaning of what he stood for, as with Jesus. In making him an establishment, all-American figure, the system hopes to use him as, or at the time, hoped to use him as a counter against the Black Power movement without realizing that King stood for something even more radical, subversive, and treasonous. Simple human dignity. That's why the system can grant integration and leave so many of the integrators still spinning wheels and circles at the bottom of the heap. Make a federal holiday out of his birth, while the first black president squanders the nation's wealth with bailouts for banks and turning Afghanistan into Vietnam. Uh-oh, this can't be good. Hello? J. Edgar Hoover, stop that spinning. Settle down. That's better. What's up? You want to repeat what you said above ground? That Martin Luther King Jr. still remains the most dangerous man in America? That if you'd had the Patriot Act in your day, you'd have had him buried alive in Gitmo and no one would have ever known a thing about him. Well, don't worry. None of that would have been necessary. No one knows a thing about him now. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a Camp Delta or Camp Iguana in the first place.